so excited right now because I'm sitting right now with a dozen sales trainers. That's 12 sales trainers from around the world. And when I say now, it has to be now, because literally it's the only time when the time zones can all come together to fit this incredible panel of people in. And we're going to be discussing one of the most critical and most important components of sales. And that is respect, credibility, and overall trust. And how do you establish that? Now, as Madge3.com, my company approached all these sales trainers because we believe in the same thing. We realize that if you go into a sales meeting and they have trust and credibility and respect for you, your chance of closing that deal is so much higher. And building that credibility and building that respect in the sales process is absolutely paramount to the success of your sales efforts. Now, we're going to start by going all the way to Canada. We're going to speak to a lady, Susan. How are you doing, Susan?
I'm well. How about you?
Thank you. Thank you. So we're speaking to a lady that also happens to run one of the largest business LinkedIn groups in Canada. And I picked you for a reason, Susan. And I've got to ask you this question. When you're out there doing your online marketing, and you do a lot of that, just how much of that marketing is hardcore, in your face, sales pitchy?
None of it, to be honest with you. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the pandemic. Okay, pre and post pandemic, the hard sell spam stuff doesn't work for a number of different reasons. One, in Canada, it violates our Can Spam Act. Okay, it's literally illegal to spam people. So that's the first thing. Secondly, it's just annoying, right? Let's face it. If I'm at a networking meeting or if I meet you online, just the fact that I get your email address does not give you the right to send me emails or put me on your email list. It's just, it's illegal and it's annoying. But most importantly, I've always found that people, no matter what, people buy on their timeline, not mine. No matter what I can do as a sales professional, they buy on their timeline. So my online marketing has always been creating those relationships, creating those connections, nurturing those relationships, and so that when the prospect is ready to buy, they think of me first and come to me first. Now, that's not to say that the online marketing can't be automated. In fact, quite the opposite is true. But any process that's that works is worth repeating, and any repeatable process can be automated. So it's not spam, it's relationship building. It's giving them, the prospect, what they need to move the sale forward, what they need to help them get to where they want to go. And that's, to me, has nothing to do with spam, and it's all about helping the customer.
Completely agree. And the reason I brought that up first, Susan, is because so many people are doing it. You can kind of feel the desperation in the air when they send you these messages. And it's so frustrating. So when you do that reach out online, I mean, just give us, I know you've got hundreds of examples. Just give us one or two examples where you don't say, hey, I've got a 20% off special right now, or come get into my training for free and blah, 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 blah. Give us an example of a kind of message that you feel builds that credibility and respect.
Very, very simple. I'll give you an example from last week. Okay. One of my automated posts that I put out was, it's hard to work from home right now. Here and stay positive. Here are 10 tips sales reps can use to get and keep a positive attitude. Thought you might find it of use. Okay. Here's the article. Here's the link to the article. And I'm getting excellent feedback. Thanks, this really helped. Okay. And once people get to see that if this is how good of information I give for free, can you imagine what I do when I actually charge you for it? It's all about helping people get to where they want to go and appreciating the position they're in. Let's face it, we're all in a different position right now. If there's some information that I have that I can help you get to where you want to go in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months time, when this nightmare is all over and you can do business with me, and then, hey, I hope you think of me and we'll talk about it then.
This is a theme you're going to be hearing a lot about, guys and girls who are listening to this at the moment, is this notion of helping people. And I want to pop probably, 5,000 miles away from where you are right now, Susan, and we're going to jump to South Africa and chat to Mick McCormick. You know, Mick has just got an extraordinary amount of experience, just like the rest of you. Mick, you know, prospecting used to be a face-to-face thing. You know, trade shows, expos, networking events, breakfasts, drinks in the pub. But for now, those are gone and you need to prospect online. But how do you do that in a way that still generates credibility and trust when you just aren't able to be face-to-face with that person in a real-world situation?
So, Scott, thanks for that question. And I'm going to just echo what Susan has mentioned. First of all, I think just in general terms, prospecting hasn't just, or the need for a different way to prospect hasn't just happened because of this whole virus thing that's going around the world. The old way of cold calling and phoning people cold, okay, or approaching them cold, those methodologies went out long ago, particularly from the training that we do. So the absolute must in terms of prospecting today, and we have to be even more sensitive about it because of what's happening. People are really anxious. You know, I'm anxious. I'm very concerned about what's happening. It's affecting our business, and more importantly, it's affecting our customers' businesses and our prospects' businesses. So the first thing that salespeople have to develop in their approach is empathy. And if we come across with a high level of empathy, with a high level of sensitivity, and we bring that out straight away when we connect with those people, immediately the people that we are talking to feel that they're not being spammed, they're not being forced into something because the person that's contacting them is desperate for business, etc., etc. So this whole approach of sensitivity, of empathy, and so on is an absolute must. And what we are now training our people on, and indeed we've started to approach it in the same way ourselves because we are also prospecting for business, is that big message that Susan brought across earlier on, and that is that we're here to help you. We're not here to try and sell you a solution or to sell you a product or to sell you a service, but we're simply reaching out to you to help you. We do understand what you're going through. You know why? Because we're going through the same thing. However, there are some aspects, okay, that we believe could be of great value to your organization going forward. So, yeah, just to summarize, Scott, it's that whole issue of coming across as a professional, and I mean that in the true word of professionalism, coming across as a professional and being direct, but in a sensitive and empathetic way that won't scare that prospect away, and in fact will ignite the passion and ignite the enthusiasm for that person to want to continue talking and want to continue to build that relationship.
I love what you say there, Mick, and especially what I'm liking is this notion of keeping them talking and keeping them want to talk to you. This notion of kind of just people just turning you off straight away is happening more and more because they don't want to be spammed right now, and they don't, well, not even at the best of times. But just to carry on, and what you're saying is going to lead absolutely perfectly into what then Kench is going to chat about in a second and my question to him. But just before we do that, how do you get somebody talking? I mean, you can't obviously push it, Mick, but you know, what is your kind of trick or a little tip that you can give some people to say, okay, I need to build my credibility with these guys. I need to maintain that respect. I can't do nothing. I can't go silent, but at the same time, I can't go in with guns blazing. Where is that middle ground?
Okay, so all my colleagues on this session will echo, I'm sure, because you all do this all the time. But from our perspective, it's not about your organization. It's not about what you want to offer. It's not about what you want to sell, etc. Of course, we all want to sell at the end of the day, but it's not about that. It's about actually asking those questions. And immediately you start asking questions, you enter into a conversation. And we have a wonderful saying that, you know, every sale that's made starts with a conversation. So how do you get that conversation going? And that the easiest way or the most effective way to start the conversation is to ask relevant questions, having done your research into that organization, having done your research into the person that you want to talk to, is asking relevant questions around that research that will immediately pique that curiosity and pique that interest in what your discussion is going to go, how your discussion is going to go forward. So it comes back to getting that value proposition, but not so much the value proposition so much now, but more asking the question that's going to ignite the passion and the enthusiasm and the curiosity to actually engage in a conversation. All my colleagues will know that every sale starts with a conversation and not with a sale. It just starts with that conversation.
Oh, that's great advice. Go right back to basics. I absolutely love it. And once again, you know, when the reason why our organization at madge3.com went to you guys and had this conversation, which is how this relationship started, look where we are now, is because it's about this underlying understanding that when you first meet somebody at a trade show or at a networking event or on LinkedIn or whatever it may be, the default human setting is, I don't trust you. You can't go in trying to sell a product or service. You've got to start with that conversation, and it's got to be around trust. And as you heard what Susan said earlier, the content is about trust. It's about understanding their pain. And that's something we're going to get into a lot more detail. Now, just to follow off what you were chatting about just now, Mick, is I'm going to move across to Ben Kench, all the way over to the UK. Now, Ben, there's been an extraordinary example, and I'm sure there's been many, of a company that got it completely wrong. And you know, every day, yeah, we're getting desperate, fearful approaches. We're getting these spam people. We're getting, oh my God, I'll give you this at whatever price, at whatever discount. And that is sinking people's reputation. But none have done it worse right now than, in my opinion, than that company JD Wetherspoons in the UK, who was in the media by saying, well, we're not going to pay our staff. I'm not going to go into the full detail of what they did. I know they turned it around later and eventually, under public pressure, changed their mind. But they literally said, we're not going to pay our staff. That is how to do it wrong. But let's talk positive, Ben. Can you give us an example of somebody who is building their reputation and building their credibility the right way?
Yeah. Hi, Scotty. Hi, everyone. You know, obviously, in just a few moments, there are always examples like Wetherspoons of how not to do it, and then you sit there and you regroup and you look at the abundance of real humanity that's coming out now. And actually, one of the most amazing things from my perspective, and I'm sure for all of us, is that this is a time of probably re-engineering what we wanted to do but felt we couldn't. So we come from a world of sales where naturally we tend to be strong characters, we tend to be hunters, we tend to be on the front foot chasing. And naturally now we've got to probably sit back a bit and attract. And so to go with what you're saying about how not to do it, looking at the other side of how to do it, there are hundreds of examples I've found over the last week. You know, everything from communication. One of the key things that's happened with every organization is, to its staff, Wetherspoon saying, you can't work for us, we're laying you off. Others are saying, guys, we're in this together. You know, I've got examples of clothing companies where they're saying, we really, you know, we care, we're a team. And that whole communication from the organization to the staff, but through the staff to the public, has shown them to be caring. I'll just read a couple of examples to you here. There are hotels in America, for example, where they're all saying, look, we've got empty rooms. Why don't we give those rooms to frontline health workers? The food industry, obviously, we can't serve direct over the counter anymore, but we've got warehouses full, cupboards full, fridges full of stuff that if we don't use, it's going to go off. So why don't we just contribute that? Why don't we just actually give it away to people that need it? We've got whole organizations in the clothing chain. For example, Crocs. They've said, well, look, we want to help people in this crisis. We'll give every frontline worker pairs of Crocs, so at least they're comfortable while they're stood for 15 hours a day. And I guess if you look at, it doesn't matter whether it's a service or it's a product, This is an opportunity for us to give, not worry about getting. My personal stance, my belief that we can all embrace more of, is that it's the humanity that will rise us. People will remember kindness long after the virus. So maybe this is a time for us to focus on giving an ear, giving time, giving advice, generally just being there, for just talking about how I'm frustrated in the house with my wife and my dog, but just being there, being human. And that, in my perspective, is probably how we can counterbalance the Wetherspoons of this world, Scott.
Yeah, wonderful words, Ben. My son might be very interested to hear that Croc story, because he believes you can't give Crocs away, but that's another story.
Yeah.
I think they're great, but anyway, each to their own. But yeah, you know, it's great to see that there's companies stepping up, and those are the ones that are going to be remembered. But now, Ben, just to carry on, it's important to realize that salespeople are still employees and they represent the company. And business owners, of course, represent the company. So from a sales perspective, you still have not just a right, not just a duty, but an absolute obligation to get the sentiment across on behalf of your company.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the truth of the matter is, we still have to carry on. We have to, as I'm sure, you know, this incredible panel, I'm sat here every day having meetings over a Zoom or similar with my clients. And the fundamental message is, this too will pass. You know, absolutely, this is a finite period of time. So yes, it's inconvenient, but what can we learn from it? And let's be prepared for when we come out of it. So, you know, right now, actually, there's a whole load of things we can do. We still have to have a business mindset, but if it comes back in June or July, are we going to be just Groundhog Day, the same as we were? Or have we used this to be better? As business owners, as sales leaders, have we changed the way we approach? Have we built more digital so it gives us better reach? Have we used this time to show that it's not all doom and gloom? I mean, I think as leaders, it's more about what we come out of it like than what we do in it now.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, absolutely. Those are just such wonderful words, Gary. And it's you can see, Ben. Sorry, you can see the difference in the way so many people, including you guys, are just charged. And despite what's going on, turning those messages of good, and that is what's building credibility, and that is what's building respect. And it's about those messages. Without credibility, you're not going to get those conversations, as Mick said, and then clearly, you're definitely not going to get those sales. I'm going to stick in your neck of the woods now, and we're going to go to Gary Gorman. You know, Gary, there are certain industries, and we have to be completely realistic about the positivity we're getting across, because there are certain industries that have been crushed right now. And if you're a salesperson or you own a business in one of those industries, I'm talking about the ones that are really getting knocked. Let's talk about how you should conduct yourself. And this is not a lesson in, you know, grade 3 manners. It's literally a case of, you know, are you going to be the captain of the Titanic and go down with the ship with dignity and grace? Are you going to grab a lifeboat and make a run for it and just kind of ignore everybody and just say, bugger the women and children, just run for your lives, which some people have done. They're doing that. Or is there a kind of third option in terms of how do you relate to people now when you're in that situation and just maintain that credibility and respect?
Yeah, hi, Scott. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you phrased the question, obviously the option is the third option. Actually, having given it some thought, I think there's 3 opportunities that link into that third option. Obviously, we're going into a brave new world, really, and in my view, the virus will change the way we work, not for the next 6 months, but maybe for the next few years. There will be a lot more home working, so I suppose, rather than being the Titanic captain or the one who scarpers for the hills, I think one strategy is to prepare for this possible new world. There will be more home working going forward. There will be more remote meetings, so that's maybe an opportunity for businesses to, as Ben said, re-engineer their product or their service to capitalize upon those more remote meeting opportunities. And I mean, we've seen the gradual erosion of the 9 to 5 over the last 30 years. So maybe it's the end of the 9 to 5 now. Maybe this is the way we will work going forward. So certainly in terms of a sales leader, a business owner, there's certainly an opportunity to prepare for this possible new world. There's also a chance maybe to review the current offering. Can it solve a new or emerging issue? I think, as we said, as Mick was saying earlier, people buy to solve problems. So is there a new issue, a new problem that is emerging out of this virus crisis that your company or your salespeople can re-engineer an existing product to fulfill a brand new issue that people are facing right now? So there's a chance to re-engineer. Is there a chance to make the product even better? It gives us a great opportunity to reflect a little bit more. Obviously, the sort of downtime that all businesses have at the moment is a great opportunity to reflect and think, well, of my current offering, can I make it better? How can I make it more effective? I've been so busy working on building the business, I've had no time to reflect. Well, now's the great opportunity to do that, to reflect and think, well, how can I solve a new problem or make my existing product work more effectively? And also, again, it's a chance to reflect, well, how will the market evolve? What it gives us a chance to think about not only what will the next 6 months look like, what will the next 5 years look like, and how can I be one step ahead of the game using this time productively to get one step ahead of the game for when that situation does emerge within the next few years? Can I get first move advantage within that particular marketplace? And I suppose the other third tip, I said that there'd be three areas, would be a chance to reflect and self-improve. I don't know if any of the guys here. I have a lot of books on my shelf that, if I'm honest, I've read a few of them, but now's the chance for me to improve and me to sort of polish up my skills, and that again is an opportunity for business leaders to do the same, develop new skills, learn new skills. So it's a great chance to reflect and self-improve as well as improve the business. Lots of online learning opportunities will crop up in the next few years. So again, there's a chance to make the most of this valuable time that we don't otherwise normally have.
Yeah, you made me realize something going back to, I think it was your second point, this notion that you can take your current business and you can shift it in a way that even if things are bad, that you can currently solve a need that's either here now or in the future. And if we have a look at somebody who did that with incredible success and built enormous credibility, especially in these times of crisis, was the fact that there was that Silicon Valley company that, when given a whole bunch of ventilators that were broken from, I think it was California, they used, within a couple of engineers got together with 3D printing, they basically re-engineered those ventilators, fixed them and sent them back. That's the kind of ingenious we're talking about. We've heard stories in the UK of breweries who are now making sanitizer with the alcohol that they're using. Yep. There's lots of these, there's these ideas. But going back to, again, because that is what builds your credibility. But let's go back to the message. Like right now, if you're a business owner or you're a salesperson, you don't really know what to do. What is your first step to say, okay, I want to help, but how do you get the message that I want to help across? In other words, people don't just, in other words, what I'm saying is, it can't be right to just sit there and do nothing and just think. How do you engage the community to help you come up with that solution?
Reaching out to people, offering advice, offering support, just offering a friendly word. I mean, what I've done within my business in the last 3 or 4 weeks is I've literally reached out to people just to say hi, just to make sure they're okay, make sure they're coping with it. It's a tricky challenge for all of us. So I think that's the first step, Scott, is literally, I think, all the guys have said previously, we're not selling at all. We're just reaching out as one human to another human, offering support, help, guidance, be a sounding board. Those sorts of things really will pay off when they have a specific need that you can solve in the future. But that's for another day. Now, people are very worried about their own health, their family health situation, very challenging time. So I think it literally is reaching out a hand of friendship, which will then lead into some business opportunities further down the track. Does that answer your question?
It does, absolutely. Because what you've effectively said, just to summarize, and from my take on it, which is absolutely incredible advice right now, is engage your existing community. Engage the people around you and engage them in an authentic way. None of this desperate, spammy nonsense we've talked about before. Engage them in an authentic way that builds credibility and respect, and at the same time, tells them your position as well. Because you will get help and assistance from the most unlikely of places, which I know the next speaker, Dan Hollis, is going to resonate with. And I chose this question because I know how much this man loves his books and his business books. So Dan, I need to kind of rein you in on this one, do I? Because I know that you could speak for 2 days on this, buddy. I know it. I know you love Napoleon Hill, and I know you love your business books, and that's why I chose you for this topic. In fact, you're obviously an author yourself, which as several other of these speakers are as well. In fact, I think pretty much all of you speakers are authors of published books as well. But Dan, I've got to ask you to do something very difficult, and I did give you some time to think about this, so I'm not putting you on the spot because I know it's a tough one. If you were to pick 1 or 2 books on building and establishing respect and reputation and trust and credibility, which 2 books would you choose?
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Think and Grow Rich, which was in fact written by Napoleon Hill. But I also want to recommend a book by Roy Williams called The Wizard of Ads. And I also want to shout out props to Roger Dawson, who's the world's greatest negotiator, The Powers of Secret Negotiating. So that's kind of a holy trilogy for me, those 3. But getting back to Think and Grow Rich, and I'm not being paid by their organization to say this, but this is a book that most of you know came out way back in 1937. And that shouldn't scare the viewers, oh, it's an old book. It sold over 20 million copies over the decades. They continuously update it. And the origin of this book, it really started with a challenge from the steel magnate Andrew Carnegie when he met Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill was an up-and-coming writer at the time, very successful. He basically said, I'm going to introduce you to many influential people throughout the world, politicians, inventors, actors, etc. And I want you to interview them. And the essence of it was to try to create a book that could change the world, that could help the world. And I personally believe that Think and Grow Rich is the greatest business/self-help book that's ever been written. And if you look at people like Tony Robbins or Brian Tracy or Wayne Dwyer, and you can go down the list, everyone has been influenced by this book. And just a couple of quick sayings from it. Winners never quit, quitters never win. We know that one. That's Napoleon Hill. When he interviewed Henry Ford, one of my favorites is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are correct. I mean, that's pretty darn powerful. And FDR, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, and he said, here in America, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Napoleon Hill had actually written that for him as a speechwriter and so forth. So there's literally hundreds of these famous quotes and sayings in there. But at the end of the day, the common thread that I'm hearing amongst my colleagues here is we have to have hope. If you don't have hope, you have nothing. And you have to share that hope with your family, with your friends, with your clients, with your colleagues. And Think and Grow Rich is really full of hope. And it's all about the power of positive thinking. It's all in your mind. If you have head trash or negative thinking, you got to take that trash to the side so it could be picked up. You just have to think positively through this. No matter what we're going through, we have to lean on one another and have hope. So if you've never read Think and Grow Rich, or if you love to listen to books on tape, get this. It's probably the only book that I've read more than twice. It's a favorite of mine.
Oh, Dan, thank you. I know you love it, and thanks for that summary there. But I am also equally intrigued now about the other 2 books that you mentioned. Can you give us a quick overview of those 2?
Yeah, so I spent many years in the radio space in a prior life, and Roy Williams would be kind of the Zig Ziglar of radio, if you will. And he wrote what I consider the Bible in that space. but it's not just for radio heads or people in the radio space. It's really a great self-help book as well. Getting with Roger Dawson, he really peaked in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He was on television all the time, talk shows, and he's just the master at negotiating. We all negotiate all the time. Even if you're with your kids and you want them to clean your room, you know, you're negotiating. So that's just a quick overview of those two. I didn't mention The Magic of Selling. That's a book that I wrote. I know it sounds like everybody's written a book, which is fantastic. The only reason I wrote my book back in 2006 is I wanted to, we're all sales trainers. So I envisioned getting in a time machine and visiting my 21-year-old self and saying, here, kid, read this. And boy, I wish I had that book. I would have learned so much more a lot quicker. So it's kind of a blueprint on what to do in this space. So.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And we're getting a couple of comments coming in from the other sales trainers chirping in there, which is great. Talking about Dale Carnegie as well, of course, how to win friends and influence people. But thank you, Dan. That's really special. And before I get in a time machine and go back to my original self, I'd love to just get in an ordinary machine and fly to USA so you and I can tell some great stories together. And, I'd love to hear some of yours, and likewise to all of you. And I hope one day all of us can get together in person and have these conversations and just tell these stories. Because right now, I think the stories that are going to come out are going to be incredible. And thanks, Gary, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's just amazing. And I always go back to this. Whenever I meet you guys, it never ceases to amaze me how you guys go back to the basics, and you so eloquently talk the basics back to us in a way that we've never understood and made us realize that it is the basics that helped. I mean, we talked last time where Mick, you've trained almost 100,000 people. And basically it came down to, if you're a salesperson or a business owner right now, one of the best things you can have is good manners. Little things like that are so important. And this is about that credibility and respect and reputation. And that's why you guys are all so highly sought after in this industry. Now I'm going to jump across to the other side of the world, literally, and talk to Ian Stevens. He's in Australia. Thank you so much for staying up late, Ian.
No problems. Pleasure to join you, Scotty.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. So one of the things I love about your conversing with you, like Ben, or like everybody, I mean, you've all got your different mannerisms, but Ian, you just take online meetings and the way that you present yourself and the way you use your body language. You really just seem to get it, because and not to say the other sales trainers haven't done this, a lot of them have some really good videos out there, really good online training. It's just that I just love the way that you come across. And online meetings are huge right now. You do a lot of them. Do you have some tricks and tips for presenting yourself during these meetings? How to speak, your body language, to really get across that confidence, credibility, and trust?
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. Happy to share a couple of tips. But, firstly, I'd just like to support a couple of comments I've been listening into. So, Susan, with her comment at the start, people buy on their own timeline. I just love that, because there are a lot of people out there, and viewers, please stay away from this if you're doing it, getting too quickly into sell-to mode and coming across as salesy, instead of creating that environment where people want to buy from you because you're understanding their needs and being of service. So that would be my first comment. And I think it was it Mick in South Africa talked about, every sale start with a conversation, and I totally agree with that. But it reminded me that yesterday I was listening to Elvis Presley, and I actually had the lyrics in front of me of a little less conversation, a little more action, please. And I couldn't help just play with that and come up with the sales professionals version. And it was, a little less conversation, a little more listening, please. All this conversation ain't satisfactioning me. A little more consult and a little less sell, a little more ego and a little less tell. Open your mouth, close your mouth and open your heart, and oh baby, inspire me. And I think that's what we need to be doing at the moment, really inspiring people to want to do business with us rather than trying to sell to. So just wanted to start there. But back to your question about a couple of practical tips around your credibility online is, I decided it might be a little Freudian slip because it is past 10 o'clock over here and I really need to be in bed. But I came up with 3 ideas for tonight, and I've come up with the acronym of BED. So BED. If you want to take some notes, then perhaps you'll just write down BED. And the B does stand for body language. So Scotty, I love the fact that you, like me, you talk with your hands. There still has to be some body language when you're online. So you're engaging all the modalities. I'm also a fan of using the space you've got. You know, a bit like on stage, or a lot of the sales trainers know to, anchor some physical space. So I might say to people during a meeting, if I'm leading a meeting of my colleagues, I might go, well, just come over here and join me in the reflection corner. Let's just reflect on what's been going on there and think about how we apply that. Or I might turn the top of my screen here into the learning zone. So join me in the learning zone up here. What can we learn from what's played out? And then open up that chat and then come back to your centre space. So using the space, using your body language, that's the B, body language. And that also applies to the volume of your voice and, and the presence you're having. So, sometimes if I want to make a really powerful point, maybe in a sales context, something I talk about is the activities first. You've got to do activities if you want to get results. So I might actually just go, hey, just lean in for a minute. What's really important is we manage activities first, people. They are more important than results. I'm telling you, it's important. And so vary what you're doing and use your body language and the space you've got. So that's the B in bed. I mean, a good bed has a great foundation, a good mattress. So just giving you a few foundations here. Let's see, the E is all about your energy. And I'm hoping that's coming through. But, as you were introducing me, Scotty, I'm putting myself into a physiology of excellence. I'm sitting up, I'm getting larger, I'm firing a bit of a confidence knuckle that puts me in a state where I'm more confident, because you've got to kind of put yourself in 4th gear instead of just, sitting there, particularly if you're leading an online discussion and meeting. It might be a team meeting, let alone a little bit of a virtual workshop or whatever. So up the ante on the energy. You've got to get yourself out of, gear 1 or 2 and put yourself into 4th gear, so you come across with a bit of presence. Be engaging. Nothing worse than someone going, I'm really excited about our new product launch and I want to talk about that, guys. Hello, people are disconnecting. So, have some energy. That's the E in bed. And the D stands for directionalizing. And the sales trainers will know what I'm talking about. Directionalize the thinking and behaviour you want, particularly at the start of an online meeting or discussion. So I'm really doing the directionalizing using, what behaviour and thinking do I want? So can I invite you guys to take notes while we're talking about this new product launch? Can you leave your camera on, everyone? Be engaged. Let's all kind of be present and in the now moment, not distracted, turning cameras off, doing other things. And I'm really going to invite you to use the chat box as a modality to, when someone else is talking, if you agree with the comment, let's get some interaction happening via chat. So I'm really directionalizing strongly the thinking and the behavior I want at the start of the actual meeting. So, there's a few tips. BED, good foundation to an online meeting or discussion.
Wow, that was sensational. Yeah, people are applauding. Well done. Now, everybody listening, this is really important now. If you want to understand, if you look at all the ways that all the sales trainers have come together tonight and what's in common with them, and these guys are highly experienced sales trainers and sales people unto themselves. The key thing they've all done, and this is really important, is they are edifying each other. When, you heard Ian before he started referencing on what some of the other trainers spoke about before. Every one of you trainers have done that. That's so important. If you take one great tip out of this tonight, when you're doing your sales or any of your meetings as a business meeting or anything, reference what other people are saying around the table. It's just such a simple thing. Ian, that was sensational. I almost don't have another question for you to carry on because that was so complete and so fantastic. So if it's all right, I'm going to jump across now to Julie, back to the UK. Julie, you have seen so many businesses melt away because they were in hard hit industries. And we spoke about this with Gary Gorman earlier, and he gave us some really good advice on, you know, even if you are in those industries, you can find a solution by engaging your local communities. And I know you are advertising and consulting to a lot of these businesses right now. But what I love about you is you really are a shining light to so many people. And you're getting out there in an authentic way. So just tell us about some of the tactics that you've used to help your clients maintain their credibility at an awful time like this.
Hi, Scotty. Yeah, thanks for that. Great, Ian. It's made me smile. Love it, love it, love it. So yeah, before we came online, I wrote some points down, and what is really lovely is a lot of people have already brought these up. So I am going to be edifying what my colleagues online here have said. I think the first thing sort of I want to pick up is what Mick had said. It's about the relationship that you want to build. It's about help, don't sell. If we think back to the panel discussion we had last time, that came out of that. And this is about keeping educated, keeping helping people, sharing your knowledge. And again, that's what Susan said. So it is about, it is about that relationship build. It's not pushing hard at people. That's one of the key sort of messages. I think the other thing that I've been talking to people about now is we've had enough of all the virus talk. We know it's happening, and it's happened, and you know, I think now is the time that if you look at sort of the Facebooks and the LinkedIn, there's still a lot of it going on, but it's you know, people like us, business owners, etc., that if we can directionalize away from that, that is going to help a lot of people's positive mental attitudes and sort of the way that business will go. And one of the points I wrote down is business is very resilient. I know it doesn't feel like that right now, but it is exceedingly resilient. And I think some of my colleagues on here have spoken about evolution, about evolving. I think Gary sort of said about taking some time out to think about your business. And this is absolutely key. And one of the things I'm talking to my clients about is, you know, it might not feel like it now, but now is the time to sit down and sort of think about the future and how your skills, your products, your services are going to help people get back into normal life, normal trading. Although some of it will look differently, but now is the time to do that and to use this time to start planning. And one of the key messages as well that I'm giving to people is keep talking to your customers. Again, and Mick pulled this out. It is about, you know, we're in this together. They'll remember the relationships. They'll remember people phoning up and seeing how they are, and you know how the family's doing and how they're managing to keep sane in amongst 5 kids and homeschooling and everything else, and dogs and cats and everything on top of each other. So yeah, I suppose that's all the things that I've written down on this. It's an amalgamation of what we've already discussed.
Yeah, Gillian, you make some very nice points there, and it's so true. And this not talking about the virus, but the problem is now it's a pink elephant. Now, when I say we shouldn't talk about the virus, obviously not to talk about the virus. But I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree with it, because I think we need to flatten the curve of talking about the virus. So let's go into this and let's talk about what you said earlier about business resilience. Now, business is about people, and you know, especially SMEs, they are the heart and soul of that kind of electrifying energy that is business. That means people have to be resilient. How are you advising people right now to maintain their kind of dignity and respect and saying, guys, I'm going to come out of this as one of the good guys?
Okay, so one of the things that we're talking about is just being very careful about how you portray yourself in social media. You know, if you're doing email marketing, but particularly social media, it's keep that message positive. Just remember what you're saying now is going to be remembered when we sort of come out of this. I think a lot of small business owners, particularly ones that I work with, have gone through an array of emotions. And I think now a lot of people, you know, my advice is concentrate on the future. yes, we are obviously caught up in some to a degree about the here and now, but think about the future, and also think about what you want your business to look like, how that business is going to look when you come out of this. A massive thing that a lot of people can go through is using this as self-reflection. And I think some of my colleagues have said, you know, business is going to look very different. How we do business is going to look very, very different. I know a number of my clients have taken this time to just think, okay, you know, how can I work differently? What can I do to give me a work-life balance, if that's what they want? We've all agreed that working online, I think, is going to be something that's going to be more prevalent than it has been before. We've all been forced onto this Zoom technology, and I think that will continue. So, you know, it's looking towards the future and planning, and personally, that's helping me as well.
Yeah, great advice. And, you know, one of the key themes of tonight was about that preparation, and you've identified that so well. You've got to prepare for what's to come. And I want to reiterate that advice, Julie, because that is absolutely critical right now. And that is, be careful what you say on social media, because that is there forever. And that's a huge piece of advice. So that little comment about, you know, anti-government or anti-this, yes, it's, we understand you can rant up to a point and everybody's frustrated, but sometimes you can push it too far, and be very, very, very careful of your personal brand right now. So that is a hugely important piece of advice, Julie. Thank you so much. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Let's go to slightly further south. Ben Markslag, who's currently in Spain, works a lot in Holland. Basically, some of the hardest hit countries. But let's be honest, guys, what country isn't hard hit by now? It really is. And you know, even at the best of times, Ben, you can't be seen as a hard salesperson. You know, Europeans are becoming more and more anti, not just legally, but morally and ethically. You have to be very gentle in the way you approach Europeans, and the same goes for the rest of the world, and the way you start building those prospects. And credibility is key. So how do you bring in new revenue at a time like this?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And thanks everyone else for the nice comments. And I think we're almost already on one line as far as that is concerned. Regarding hard sell, I think we are already coming out of an era where hard sell, and that's also the way I train. I mean, I think maybe it does no longer exist. What I train is, I mean, how to help people buy, and that's also the tone of voice I hear in the comments from all the others. So what I also believe, and I think that is also in line with what Julie is saying, is that especially we're coming now from a time which lies only a few weeks behind us, where everybody could be successful in sales, because I mean, economies were flourishing. I mean, it was no problem at all to sell. And now we are suddenly moving into a total new era, whereby I think that will be the main discovery for most sales leaders and directors and who else, that online has become more and more important. And that is already something which started some time ago with marketing growing into the sales process, and the marketing and sales departments trying to all align already more and more. But that was a huge difficulty, because I mean, marketing was pointing to sales and say, you don't do anything with our leads. Sales was pointing to marketing and say, okay, you're giving shit leads, sorry to say. But this process is now becoming more important, because online, your online presence, I mean, to really explain and not only talk about what your product can do, because I don't believe in the product. It's now the area that we're going into is how and why do you sell? And I think that is becoming more important. So it's, for me, it's online presence. It's indeed, like Julie said, it's communicating, but also giving a lot of insight to sales leaders in which direction to move. So I think that is the strategy that I'm following. So I'm trying, in fact, by challenging the sales leaders, asking questions and say, okay, in which camp are you in? Trying to better down the matches, or are you trying to move forward? Of course, I mean, trying to, everybody's proud of their business and no, we want to move forward. Okay, so then, and that's how you try to engage and make them listen to your story. And in fact, what I'm thinking about with someone else whom you also met separately, is in fact bringing across the message that online is becoming more and more important. And where does your company stand? And maybe to present the results from a kind of a benchmark to the market again, to give them something back and say, okay, this is where you stand versus the other companies, and let's discuss the outcome and what this means for you. And then, I mean, and that's where I come in, is once that you have the leads, I think we're moving into an era where sales, really the face-to-face sales, has become top sport. Because that one client, because there are companies going bankrupt, the economy will slow down, there will be a recession. So if you really want to win that one client that pops up, sales has become top sport. So your sales, even if you get a lot of leads from marketing, your sales have to be absolutely trained in order to make sure that that one order is going to be signed up. So I think it's a combination of marketing and sales, bring the message across. It's reinforced by everybody moving online, communicating, being top of mind. That's for me the whole, that's for me the main field of attention at the moment.
Gee, Ben, and all of you guys have come up with some absolute pearlers. I mean, some of the little gems that you've given just flow out of your mouths so easily. And Ben, you just said something so interesting. I mean, right up front when you talked about, you know, you need to help people buy from you. Yeah. Now, there's an art right there in itself. And I just love that statement. And you also said something which is absolutely, and this is once again why I love dealing with you guys. It's so fantastic. Is that you talked about this idea that sales is not about burning through leads anymore. Your salespeople have got to be in tip-top shape. You cannot afford to let anything fall through that sieve. You need to close it up, and you need to make sure that bucket has no holes in it. And you just have to maximize that. So, you know, are you starting to see that happen at the moment? Ben, are you starting to see an elevation? I mean, I guess it is too soon to say, but I mean, maybe the question should be, how would you now go about training your clients to say, okay, get your salespeople in tip-top shape so they don't let any more leads through?
Well, I think indeed, like I said before, it's firstly, I mean, to challenge the sales leaders. In which camp are you in? You want to move forward and win and survive, or so that's one way to make a distinction. The other way is, I mean, to identify clear target groups in the market which are still growing. I mean, the supermarket business is huge, and everything that's around it. It's transport, it's healthcare. I mean, and of course, I mean, I'm operating in Mallorca. I'm from Mallorca. Of course, tourism. I mean, I wouldn't be in the hotel business or in real estate at the moment. I mean, that's not where it's happening. And still, those people also need to stay top of mind once this flow of tourism comes back. I mean, so there is work to do. Yeah, I think you have to be active in the market and to show that you are there and how you can help them. Sorry, Scott, go back to your question. I forgot about the last part.
No, that's fine. It was to do with the fact that, you know, our trainers these today and is the sales force geared up to be able to stop burning through those leads and be in such tip-top shape that those leads are not being wasted.
Yeah. So that's just bringing the message across that there will be less prospects in the market because of the economy. But if there is a prospect, you have to make sure that you get them on board, and that has become top sport. And that is, I think, the message that needs to be brought across in order to make people to engage them and do business with you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And what we're trying to do here, and the reason for these is to build our own credibility and to show people out there that here's a whole bunch of advice for you right now, because by doing that, it elevates our own reputations. So it's such a win-win for everybody, and it's not a difficult skill to learn. And this it's just watching the actual group at the moment is great. There's lots of messages going back and forth, and there's some really good points being made. So I would like each of you guys in a few minutes when we finished to go through. I'm going to give you guys all of 30 seconds to touch base on one or two of the important points, or create a new point if you wish, because there's some pearlers coming on. I mean, Gary, you make a good point, for example, about the fact that after we come out, are we all just going to be craving human touch again and face-to-face contact? Personally, I think that while that is true, online, I agree with Ben up to I agree with Ben that online is here to stay. But I'd like to move across to someone who is just has really touched my heart, because he suffered so many personal tragedies in the last couple of weeks. And Anthony, you've really seen this, what's going on firsthand. But despite that, you've held your head so high and maintained your integrity and your honor. And for that, I have a huge amount of respect for you. And I know that you feel this way. You want to come out of this as the good guys and girls. We need to be seen as the good guys, and we need to be that shining beacon of light. How are you doing that? How are you doing that?
That's a great question, and I totally agree with what so many other people here today have been saying as well. It's just about being proactive, but being proactive in the right way. So what I'm doing, and it sounds like a lot of you are doing it as well, is you're trying to get as close as you can to your clients right now, to reach out to them, ask them those questions. What is it they need now to get through? What are they going to need in the future on the other side of this? I mean, some of them won't know, but the very fact of you being there for them and not trying to sell, but adding whatever value you can to their situation by sharing a perspective. I mean, we're working, for instance, with a leading educational establishment in London at the moment, and they've come to us and they've said, we were originally going to do some face-to-face training with them, and they said to us, they said, look, can you help us create some online courses and a blended curriculum for our organization? And we're just starting off actually with a very small course. It's going to be on pitching skills. How lovely to be asked to be involved in that. And we'll learn so much on that journey, and hopefully we'll be able to add value to each other doing it. So it's just, I mean, I agree with so many things that were said just now. For me, I sum it up as being magnetic. So a magnetic person is someone who is a radiator rather than a drain. A drain is that type of person that you've talked about. These are the spam artists, the spam merchants, who are kind of calling people, doing that horrible 1950s, fancy some online training, mate. We've moved our courses online. A great way of making people, I'm sorry, wretch when you call them. But far better is to do what everyone else here has been alluding to quite rightly, which is just saying that, firstly, and we're using that word solidarity a lot, both on social media. I was glad to hear that social media was referred to as well. It's very important, not just that when we're calling our clients, but that in terms of the social part, the social media part, that the messaging is absolutely right. So, for instance, what we've been doing is we've been using this time, which was also alluded to, here about self-reflecting a bit about why were we created? What does our logo mean? Who are we? Why are we here? And so we've been doing some posts to say, look, we're standing in solidarity with you. We realize now why, we're really thinking about why we were created, and it's to help people through thick and thin to learn. That's why we're here. And, crisis or no crisis, that's why we exist. And it's just letting people know that although it's not business as usual, because of course it can't be business as usual, we are still there. So, and I think I mentioned it the other time, there's two kind of mindsets, aren't there? There's the cause and effect mindset, isn't there? So the effect mindset is, oh my goodness, I'm living with the effect of this ghastly crisis. There's nothing I can do. My business is melting away. How ghastly is this? Which, by the way, I'm not judging anyone if they do have those feelings. It's perfectly human to have those feelings. And as you rightly alluded to, I lost 2 loved ones quite recently as a result of this crisis. So emotionally, it's been an absolute roller coaster for me. But then there's the cause mindset, which is, what can I do to get to the other side of this? What can I do to create as much value and interest? And I love that word inspiration, which I think Ian used, that word about inspiring people to want to do business with us. And I totally agree with that. It's it's just about asking those right questions, for being proactive, getting out there, and also supporting that on social media with the right type of messaging. I mean, we're even sharing stuff about art at the moment, because you know, we have a business partner who has an art gallery, so we're going to be sharing some stuff there. Art soothes minds in a crisis, you know. But at the same time, I do agree. I loved your comment about flattening the curve of talking about the virus, because we do have to try to, on the one hand, it's that game of showing that we absolutely do feel solidarity for them, but also that we are looking forward, that there will be an upturn, and how ready are any of us for that, and what we might be able to do with them around that. So I hope that makes sense and answers the question to some extent anyway.
No, Anthony, thank you. And I love your drains, radiators, and magnets. And, you know, so sometimes it's what you shouldn't be. And we talked about that before, you know. What you don't do is do stupid things like telling your whole staff you're just not going to pay them 1 week into lockdown, and just crazy, delusional, psychotic stuff that people are doing. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm going to do something, and guys, you know, also reveal something. And I know I've chatted to all of you, and I'm not saying this is applying to all of you, but I'm pretty sure it does. And if you want me to edit this out, or you want to challenge what I'm saying here, then I will edit it. But something that I want to say to the people listening to this right now is, you're really lucky to be listening to this panel right now. But at the same time, it's important to understand that we have all suffered financially. I don't think there's anyone that hasn't suffered significantly financially. But would you know it by listening to all you guys? By listening to your attitude, the fact that some of you are waking up at 7:30 in the morning, or staying up till 11 o'clock at night or later to be on a panel discussion to help people. This is what builds credibility. This is what is respect. And Anthony, thank you so much again for sharing it, because you were sharing what you experienced out of this crisis. And, you know, agreed. Again, you did such a good job. I literally don't have another question to ask you. But we are going to come back after we finish with Richard in a second. I want to come back and hear from you again, and everyone else. So we'll go through it and hear closing remarks. But right now, we're going to go to Richard. Richard, great to have you on again. You know, yeah, good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. You know, there are salespeople out there who have really taken a knock to their business, and some have been worse than others. We talked about it. And, you know, you and I, and, you know, we've talked about the breweries industry, for example, in the UK. Yeah. We've talked about that. Those people are really feeling it right now. But again, you know, how important is it to show the world that even when you are a salesperson in an environment that is collapsing, how do you act and communicate with that personal integrity and honor?
Well, thanks, Scotty. And I completely agree with the comments that all of my colleagues have given here. And in terms of our behaviours and our integrity is actually the key to the success that we can make of this particular situation, and how we might come out of it in the future. And I think that's the key message we must get over to anybody that is prepared to spend time to listen. In as much as we must not give in to desperation. Now, I've been talking to a number of companies over the last couple of weeks, and they've seen a variety of behaviours from their salespeople and from business owners, which is accurately reflected by the amount of desperation within that business at that time. So, for example, one particular company who can't see that they can get the support from the government they need to be able to sit back and take stock. They have to keep pushing to keep that cash flow going. And what that's led to is a desperation, which has meant they're trying to increase their prices, because either they've got customers that are demanding their product right now, so they need to make as much money from those customers as possible because the rest of their customers have dropped off, or because their whole pool is reducing so dramatically that in order to support their cash base, they have to increase their prices or push more product onto people. So I think the first thing that we need to do as salespeople and business owners is accept the current situation for what it is, and the fact that we are going to struggle. But what we must not lose sight of is our own integrity, our behaviors, the strengths that got us to this point in the first place, the things that gave us success, and that is trust, a relationship, and working with our customers in a way that builds our own credibility, but builds that reliance on each other, that partnership that should always be there. So number one, accept the situation that we're in. Do not act in a desperate measure. Don't be tempted to increase prices to solve a problem, because that will only ever be a short-term cure. Don't resort to sharp tactics just because you're up against it. This is not the time to start pushing those sales and start to behave in a more salesy manner, as we've heard from everybody else. And basically treat people as you'd want to be treated. If you were being sold to, how would you want that to work right at this moment? And we have to accept, when you sit and think about all the stuff that's going on up here, in everybody's minds, we're all worried, we're all anxious, we all don't know what's going to happen and where it's going to go. Suddenly somebody comes in and starts trying to build into that conversation a sale. We want to talk to you, we want to get involved with you. Your instant reaction is going to be to resist and resist, unless they're saying something which really resonates with you and the current situation and gives you some kind of hope. We have to understand everybody's in exactly the same situation to a different degree. And it's those that act with honor and integrity that will be remembered when this is over. The ones that don't, our Wetherspoons friends, who are, to be honest with you, going to be boycotted by an awful lot of the UK beer buying public, will be remembered for the wrong reasons. So my biggest tip, if you want to maintain your integrity and your credibility, but you need to carry on selling, first of all, identify those customers that you could sell to who legitimately need your product now because of this situation that we're in. And if those don't exist, if there aren't anybody you can sell to there, you need to start identifying those customers who legitimately would want to use your product in the way that you normally sell it in order to get out of this crisis, the planning stage for moving on. And then if those don't exist, okay, how do I start talking to people who could be using my services in the future? In other words, what I'm saying is stop the back panic selling, stop the desperation, behave as normal, because you know that normal, that integrity and that credibility is what got you into this stage in the first place, brought you success. Don't let that go. And come out of this thinking that you, at the end of this crisis, you need to come out of it thinking, I behaved with integrity, I took the time and the space to help people, to help them out of their situations, and in return, look what happened to me. I got all that back in spades.
Flippin' brilliant. I don't, just sensational. I mean, really, Richard, a terrific summary. Again, you're getting applaud. There's such a nice little chat on the group while you're chatting, while everyone's chatting, just really encouraging. It's amazing to watch this. And you know, you talk about, once again, some absolute pearlers that just come out of your mouth, and you just speak so well in just so many different areas. And it's almost like, if you're listening to this right now, you know, just like Dan said about Think and Grow Rich, watch this panel discussion a second time or even a third time, because there are some such amazing pearls of wisdom. So once again, you know, Richard, thank you so much. It really is about, don't make these stupid mistakes, and don't do these silly things. I do have to ask you one very quick question. I love the way that you are standing up. Okay. You are standing up. Oh, have I got that wrong? How do you feel? I'm
not this short, you know, I'm standing up there. See?
Yeah. How does that make you feel? Why did you choose to stand up today?
I always stand up when I'm presenting. It's energy. It's exactly what Ian was saying in terms of that energy and that enthusiasm. I don't feel that you can infect people with energy and enthusiasm unless you've got it coming out of yourself. I'm a bit of an expressive person, and I love that connection, and that's got to be in some ways amplified because we're not standing in the same room, and I can't shake your hand and I can't look you in the eye in the same way, and I just can't keep these still. Sorry.
Don't worry, I'm exactly the same, and I love it. It's such great because it does you get that energy across, and it's really, really wonderful to see. And again, guys, I can't tell you how just honored I am to have you guys here tonight, because it makes such a difference to people hearing this and going, wow, you know, these are the top trainers around the world going, wow, there is stuff that I can do right now. I can make a difference. I can be different. And I don't have to be the bad guy. We can be the good guy at the end of this. And it comes together with the fact that it's about building that credibility and respect. And it's about just making it happen. And for those people who are listening to this right now, if you come onto majestic3.com, maj3.com, we're not going to bill you for a flipping consulting and try and rope you in. If you need to understand where your business is right now, you need some help, we will help you for free. If I need to bring in one of the trainers to assist me, if you want to talk to them, just have a conversation, guys. That's what has come out of this. We want to have that conversation with you, and we are willing to assist you. But I want to go back to each one of you guys and just a quick summary. I'm sure you guys have prepared, as mentioned earlier. Just tell us a little perler, a little gem of wisdom to close this amazing, amazing, amazing session off. And let's begin with Susan, all the way back to Susan in Canada. Sue.
First thing that comes to mind, I have a bunch of motivational quotes here that you guys can't see that I find very motivating. And the one that came to mind after all of this is the quality of a leader is reflected in the standards they set for themselves. And that really came shining through. And you know, when it really comes down to it, we're all human. We're all dealing with the new way of life. We are, our clients are, and it's important that we recognize that and we deal with that. One of the things that I found when I got sick and diagnosed with cancer years ago, when my life was spinning out of control, I found it very comforting to bring it back into a routine, okay, and really plan my day-to-day out as a routine, the way many people I think would find comfort in doing that themselves these days, and taking, you know, time to do everything that we talked about today, but also getting back to the basics, I think would help a lot of people. You know, we talked about reading, okay, and we talked about changing behavior of afterwards when we're done. I often tell my clients, did you know that the Canadian Professional Sales Association did a study that for people that read 7 business books a year earn 2.1 to 3 times more than people that don't read those business books every year. And if you think you don't have time to read after this crisis is over, read just 10 minutes a day. Just 10 minutes a day on your own self-improvement, and that adds up to 60+ hours a year. You're worth it, okay? Break down stuff into day-to-day activities, and even through the madness, you will bring order back into your life and you will be able to move forward. That's what I have, would be my final thoughts.
No, brilliant. And that's something we haven't touched on, Susan. Absolutely right. Get your day-to-day routine going. And as anyone will tell you, consistency is what pays off as a salesperson. Thank you so much, Susan. Once again, huge respect. And thank you once again for sharing as well. It's really special to hear from you. Mick, McCormick, back to South Africa.
Yeah, so Scott, for me, I've made, as I did the last time, because I'm a great believer in learning from people who are probably a lot more knowledgeable and better than me. So I'm using this whole setup as a great learning exercise for me. And as such, I've made some copious notes here on what everybody has been saying, because I want to share this with my own customers, current and future, and with our own company. But for me, I'd like to just summarize by really looking at my notes and listening to everybody, that we can encapsulate this into one word, and that is integrity. And a lot of people have a different perception of what integrity is. And it's a word that's used very, very flippantly, but do people really appreciate what integrity means? Integrity is not about morals, it's not about ethics, because those are based on things like religion, they're based on things like culture, etc., and we know that the world is full of different religions and different cultures and different ways of living. The beautiful thing about integrity is it's universal. Integrity applies to principles that embrace mankind. And those 4 principles are honesty, reliability, consistency, and confidentiality. And I don't know of a better way for companies to start instilling a culture of integrity in their organizations. Because if we follow those 4 principles of honesty, reliability, consistency, and confidentiality, the chances are that that organization will build the required respect, they will build the required trust, and of course they will build that huge word that you started this whole thing with, Scott, and that is credibility. And if there is one time that all companies and all individuals worldwide need to focus on, is that word credibility. And if we can help our sales teams and companies to really build and then maintain credibility, not only are they going to get through this very difficult time that we're all experiencing, but in fact they can thrive. And so many of you have said quite rightly that a focus going forward is not just about now. Yes, we have to deal with it now, but what about the future? So for me, if companies and people in the world embrace that wonderful word called integrity in its true sense of applying and implementing those principles both personally and in their companies, then they're going to be a different in a different place when we all get out of that. So that's a summary of
integrity, integrity, integrity. I totally agree. And we need to get this in the hands of so many people to listen to this, because they're just going to get so much wisdom from you guys. Let's move across to Ben Kench.
Okay, so picking up on the C theme there, Mick. I gladly, there's much of this which I know all of us believe is positive. It is leveraging and forcing, which is at times uncomfortable, but there are so many positives for the planet health, for our life balance. There's so many good things to come out of this. But picking up on the C theme, one of the things that I really love is I think we're going to focus, or possibly arguably need to focus on contribution and collaboration. We have got so much to give, and all of us willingly sharing, but take that one step further and let's make our business modeled more on contribution, because it is one of those core psychologies of a human. We crave to be a contributor, and we value people when they contribute. And I think business, instead of competition, collaboration is the future. We don't need to fight over the business. The universe provides an abundance. But if we collaborate more and actually willingly accept that someone else might say the same things but with different words, or someone else might be so skilled at it like we are, but from a different background, it's got a different edge. By collaborating in a unity, we just are so much more powerful. And I believe that going forward, our currency is caring. We've shifted maybe arguably just a little bit away from money being the only thing. Let's have as our currency caring.
What a statement. Currency of caring. I love it, Ben. Thank you so much. And collaboration. And that's what we're doing here again. I'll keep reiterating it. Getting you guys together, having this conversation. This is a collaboration. And look at the incredible result. Let's move to Gary Gorman.
Yeah, hi Scott. Yeah, funnily enough, I'm picking up on the C theme as well, picking up the baton from Ben, because my sort of final pointer for everyone who's listening into this is, I've mentioned in the chat box about the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People as one of my recommended books, and the C that I particularly want them to concentrate on is the circle of control. In a time of crisis, if we lodge ourselves in the areas that we can ultimately control or influence, we will be successful. The virus will go, as we've said. This time will pass, and we can't change it anyway. Whatever we do, we can't change what's happening around us. So I'd urge people to refer back to that chapter around that Covey wrote in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People about the circle of influence, and spend your time sharpening up your skills within that area within your sphere of influence. I think that would be a great suggestion for for your listeners and our viewers to take away.
Agreed. Control.
That would be my 2 penneth.
Yep. Thank you. And it's as you said, control. We're in control, guys. I know we think we're not, we are in control because we can, like the old baseball guy said all those years ago, the great baseball player, baseballers always have great words of wisdom for some reason. You can control up until the point where the ball leaves your hand. After that, you don't have control. But up until that point, you still have control. And right now, in terms of our little communities and our sphere of influence, we have control. Let's never forget that. Let's move across now to Dan.
Yes, Scotty, I guess what I want to share is that I'm very much a realist, and I recognize the fact that a lot of people are afraid, and that includes our family, our friends, our colleagues, our clients, our prospects. So all of us have an opportunity to be a beacon of light to everyone in our circle of influence and offer them hope, offer them positive thinking. Inwardly, on a personal note, keep your mind busy. Everybody's talked about it. Read books, finish writing your book, do those tasks that we're so accustomed to. Try to think of life as if we're not going through all of this. And lastly, visualization. Visualize what the future looks like, but a positive future. That could be tomorrow, it could be next week, next month. We don't know, but try to visualize a positive future. And if you do that, then you'll be very valuable to your kids, to your family, to your friends. They need us, all of us. We need to work together. We need to be positive to one another.
Absolutely. Visualize. And, you know, if you're listening to this, this is really important. It's really important that you understand that now is the time where credibility, respect, reputation is more important than anything else. Am I right, Ian?
I love the way, Scotty, that you are a learner and you model exactly what you picked up on the spot. Fantastic. Look, I just want to pick up on a thought I just saw in the chat box. Susan said, our thoughts control our outcomes, so choose wisely. And I couldn't agree with that more, because what I was thinking to kind of wrap up and contribute to this wrap up was one of my colleagues earlier mentioned about being a bit over, you know, the whole language of COVID-19 and talking it up all the time. So what's your language? I know we have to lock down to contain the spread of this. I don't language it as a lockdown though. I see it as an intermission. And that to me means there's always a really enjoyable second half coming, and after the intermission we will see a boom. There'll be lots of opportunities. So and you can also do a little vowel movement with the letters in intermission, as Dr. Joe Dispenza said. Replace the T in inter with another N and you come up with intermission. And it really is a time just to go inwards and reflect and think and plan and prepare for when we get the other side of it. So be really careful of the linguistics and the languaging that you're taking on board, because it will set up our behavioural patterns, and choose wisely, as Susan suggested.
Intermission. Love it. Julie Futcher.
Yes. Hi. Okay, I suppose my last thought, and I know, it's been a tough time, but as I said before, business is resilient. We will come out of this. It's all about positive attitude. And I'm going to share with you one of my favorite little phrases, which is, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So, and I think that's something that we've all got to just bear in mind is, it's not about waiting for this storm of everything to pass. Go out there and get yourself absolutely soaking wet. There you go. That's my thought.
I was in the pool today in Bali in the rain. There we are. I'm living proof.
Not that sort of in the pool, because I'll be very jealous.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. We're dancing in the rain. That's actually a very nice song. I seem to remember it from the European Song Contest not too long ago. Ben Markslag.
Yes, thanks, Scott. What I think will be the focus, not only for me, but also for all the potential clients as well, is lead generation in the future. To get this one client which they really are in need of. And I think, as far as I see it, we have to be the living proof of how you generate clients, because once that you are sitting in front of a client for your own business, and you explained it, how you did it with social selling, and that is the way, to have this sales talk face-to-face, and 70% of sales is still being done in a face-to-face situation, then you're living proof of what you can also, how you can help your clients generating leads and how they should do it, and explain them then the whole way how we use your majestic setup, the captive one-liner, and how to get in front of the people who you really want to do business with. So living proof for me is the main word. And to add to all the C's, one book which I preferred very much is called The Challenger Sale. And the Challenger just goes a little bit further than the consultative way of selling, because you bring knowledge to the market, you bring proof, and I think that is what everybody at the moment is in need of. New ways of selling, new ways of getting in front of potential clients. And so if we can do it, we can also help them achieve the same objective.
That's beautiful, Ben. And you know, this spirit of collaboration and knowledge sharing, you know, we say to them, whether it's lead generation or anything to do with sales, just have a conversation with us. Just talk to us. Just, you know, you guys are available, I'm available, and just we can at least guide you as to what not to do. I have many conversations with one-man bands all the time, and they cannot afford barely a loaf of bread, but they're out there. And especially, you know, coming from a country like South Africa originally, where you've got entrepreneurs that do it with a couple of pounds, the equivalent of pounds, or a couple of dollars. That's literally all they have. I mean, they are entrepreneurs in the true spirit, and helping people like that, even at a time like this, is so critically important, Ben. And thank you. And lead generation, yes. So come and talk to us. Let's move across now to Anthony Maddalena.
Thank you. I've just loved the contributions today. I think they're fantastic. And so really, there's not much for me to add. I love what people said about values, integrity, and collaboration. And perhaps that word collaboration makes me think of perhaps something that maybe we didn't touch on, which is just adaptability. We need to be thinking right now, for those of us who haven't made that full transition into offering online courses, which is the case with us. We've always offered virtual training, but we've never really offered blended courses before, or online courses. That's a fairly new step for us. It's using this time to think about how to strategize that and do that in the right way. And we do that through coming back to that C word that we talked about, collaboration. It's collaborating with our clients, should they wish it, to find out how best we can serve those needs and find those solutions, rather than there's a strong temptation, isn't there, to say, wow, let's just overnight launch an online, program and go jumping in and make lots of money. But for me, that's the wrong way. There's absolutely, I just had an email today from a larger training provider saying, hey, buy into our platform, you've got all these ready-made courses and so on. But we probably feel that wouldn't be right for us, because we have a particular style of doing things, a particular position in the marketplace, which we all have here. And we need to be true to those values, true to that vision, true to what it is we're trying to communicate into the marketplace. So for me, what we might think about doing now in terms of adapting, because it's adapt or die, isn't it? It's thinking about, who do we know, who are our clients that might be open to that conversation, seeing how we can support them, how we can help them, and going jointly on a journey to see what we can do in terms of perhaps bringing some kind of online answers to their problem. Maybe we won't, maybe no one will, but if we just have that one conversation, that's all we need to start that journey, and to do that evolving in the right way, not in a rushed way, but in an organic way. That's really all I would add.
Yes. And Anthony, I've been in the online space for 20 years, believe it or not. And I've seen and still continue to see some horrendous mistakes. And it's one of the other reasons why, before you just jump online, just be careful. Have a chat to us about it first. We can tell you what not to do and at least guide you in the right direction, because that's what we're here to do. And, I've got something really important to say, and I'm going to wait until Richard has said it, because I have a pretty good feeling that what Richard's about to say is going to echo my sentiments. Richard Palmer.
Thanks, Scotty. It might do, it might not do. Right, I've got three key things that I'd like anybody listening to this to take away from it. A message for salespeople. First of all, now is the time to do the leg work. By leg work, I mean listen, empathize, and give. Give, 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 give. Do not try to take, but you'd be amazed how much will come back to you the more you give. The second thing is when you're doing that, you need to do it with care. So that's communication, activity, resilience, and energy. And finally, my last word for you, the next C, we all know what COVID's about. COVID is about, it's now time to commune with your own thoughts. It's time to organize yourself. It's time to visualize your success as how you're going to come out of this. It's time to use your intuition in terms of the right way to do it. And it's now time to determine your own outcome. Okay? The last C.
How awesome was that? So much so, and once again, you got applause. I'm going to stand up now because you've motivated me. I've got the motion cam here. And, you know, exactly what you just said when you talked about the legwork and helping people. Guys, for those of you listening to this, I just want to mention something to you, that the guys that have spoken and girls that have spoken here today charge a fortune for their time normally, and they are busy, busy people. And I know this because they're booked outright continuously. Now that COVID has kicked in and they're giving up a lot of their time, they have their time. And you have the opportunity now to talk to them, and not in a, oh yes, we'll charge you a fortune of money to do this. It's not what this is about. You've heard it with authenticity. We are all here to help. So please, if you're listening to this, go to madge3.com, ask for a conversation. The names of all the sales trainers are going to be listed in this video. If you want to speak to them, let's set up a conversation and let's just have that discussion, because the words of wisdom that are there right now are extraordinary. And please send this out to other people that you know, send them out to your colleagues, and send this video to them. And let's just really make a difference and come out of this with credibility, respect, and our reputations intact. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's been amazing. Hugely, hugely appreciated.